most enforceable and the most beneficial for all. Both the current and the soon-to-be Mexican presidents see the wisdom of bilateral arrangements with the United States. Now, they'd like Canada to be part of it, but if not, they're not going to sabotage it. This is what Trump touted today.
They used to call it NAFTA. We're going to call it the United States-Mexico trade agreement. And we're getting rid of the name NAFTA. It has a bad connotation because the United States was hurt very badly by NAFTA for many years. And now it's a really good deal for both countries. And we look very much forward to it.
Now it's up to Canada, which is sending a rep to Washington tomorrow to either sign on to the Mexico deal, or I guess try to fashion its own bilateral deal with the United States down the road.
We will see whether or not we decide to put a Canada or just do a separate deal with Canada if they want to make the deal. The simplest deal is more or less already made.
Now, in the meantime, Trump is moving forward. As I said, why should Mexico and the United States allow their trade relationship to be held hostage to domestic politics in Canada? And of course, to the Stonewall. The strides made after a year of negotiations are really impressive. And any objective observer, if there is any of them left, would admit that tonight. And by the way, this is going to set the benchmark for any future deals in this hemisphere. And if the reaction of the stock market is any indication, the surge in reaction to today's news, Congress should fast-track the U.S.-Mexican trade agreement and keep the Trump economy humming. And that's the anthem.
They said it was impossible to revive the American dream, but together we've proven them wrong. Crime is down over 82% since 2016. Government spending is down 37% over the last 10 years. At just 1.4%, unemployment has dropped to a historic low. And with less government assistance takers, hardworking Americans are getting back what they deserve. Our GDP is soaring, so we're putting money back into American pockets. This is the new America, the winning America. Blessed be our new founding fathers. The Purge. This time it's televised.
Joining us now with more on tonight's breaking news. He is the host of CRTV's Levin TV, the host of Life, Liberty, Levin, right here, Sunday night, the #1 show in the time slot on the Fox News channel. We call him the Great One, Mark Levin. Mark, let's start with the president and the hysteria that came out last week. And the so-called experts have been so wrong the entire time.
Well, the president's actually in great shape when it comes to the law and when it comes to impeachment. On impeachment, all we have to do is vote and make sure the Democrats don't win, and then he won't be impeached. There's an idea. Anyway, that's the headline, though. The president is in very good shape. You cannot impeach a president on events that occurred before he was president. I don't know if people are aware of this. The precedent is Vice President Collier case in 1873. Judges, different. Presidents, vice presidents, on events that occurred beforehand. So even if they load up their phony list, we ought to keep that in mind. Also, there's serious doubt on whether Mr. Mueller, in his report, can use grand jury information that goes public. Remember, grand juries are secret. Grand jury information is supposed to be secret. There's a big case going on now in Washington, D.C. relating to this. Congress passed a statute to keep this information secret because when an individual is in front of a grand jury, they don't have a lawyer, the other side can't be told. There's no counter to what the government's doing. So they're going to have a big hurdle, I think, to get over to even allow the information that's in front of the grand jury to get to the American people by way of Mr. Rosenstein, because that is a miscarriage of justice. Obstruction of justice. I'm going through what they've been arguing. President cannot obstruct justice for firing a subordinate, period. Now, what about this new thing they've come up with, conspiracy to defraud an election? Well, I'd like to know this conspiracy, exactly who did the president conspire with? Who is it? Have they been charged? Have they been prosecuted? Who did the president conspire with? He didn't conspire with anybody because there is no such thing. And of course, the big enchilada, which is a sitting president cannot be indicted, which I think have you or any other U.S. attorney prosecuted for violating these laws when they use private funds or corporate funds to settle a private legal matter? Can you give me one? Can you name 1, 2, 3, 4? If this is the law, I assume you've used it on a whole bunch of other people. Well, where's the case law? Because I don't see that. Now, the one area that bugs me is the New York Attorney General, who's a hack, and the DA in Manhattan, who's another hack. These are elected Democrats. So they can look at these areas too. The federal immunity on indictment doesn't necessarily apply to them. If I were the president, I'd look across the United States and I would hire the 5 or 6 toughest, smartest, most aggressive litigators in the country. I'd pull them together around my table and I would say, I want you to do everything you can to go on the offensive against these political prosecutors. I don't care if you have to drag out their cases. I don't care how many motions you have to file. It's time to go on offense against these political phony prosecutors in the state of New York and in Manhattan. Now, if you don't mind, Sean, I'd like to briefly talk about this Bruce Orr because I think he is very, very
I don't
keen.
need to ask you any questions. You're doing great on your own.
Well, thank you.
That's why I love you. Just go ahead.
I view this guy, Bruce Orr, as kind of a mole, to be perfectly honest with you. He's on the staff of the Deputy Attorney General of the United States. First Sally Yates, and then Rod Rosenstein. There's a ton of questions this man needs to be asked because he seems to be the center of the wheel. And that is, what role, all roles, did he play in the production of this dossier? His relationship with Fusion GPS, where his wife worked, his relationship with Christopher Steele, the full extent of it is what we need to know. Because he clearly was a back channel for opposition research there in the United States Department of Justice. I want people to remember, the FBI director is gone. He's a leaker. He was fired. The deputy FBI director is gone. He's under criminal investigation. The Mr. Stroke, who was head of counterintelligence investigation, he was fired. Have you ever seen anything like this before? Now, in the Deputy Attorney General's office, you have a guy who is colluding with a former British spy, a foreigner to affect our election, whose wife just happens to be working for the opposition research outfit funded by Hillary Clinton and the DNC. Stick with me because it's very simple, and they're the ones that colluded with Russia. So the question is, not only what was his role, who did he communicate with at the FBI? Who did he communicate with at the Department of Justice? What did he tell Sally Yates? What did he tell Rod Rosenstein? Did he talk to Brennan? Did he talk to Clapper? Did he talk to the White House? Every single person he talked to. What media outlets did he potentially speak to? We need to know that too. This is all very, very important. And any members of Congress did he talk to? Did he talk to Reid? Did he talk to Adam Schiff? Did he talk to any of these people? And who provided what information to whom on this dossier? Was he behind the scenes prodding along to make sure the application was written the way they wanted it to write to go to the vice court? What we're also going to be watching tomorrow is the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party is the obstruction party. Almost anarchists. They do not care if the Department of Justice was lawless. They do not care that the senior level of the FBI wiped itself out. They've been defending them. They've been special pleaders for lawlessness. That's the question.
All right, great one. Mark Levin, thank you. Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. One of the benefits of living for a while is you get to see how the story ends. It's sometimes a little depressing. If you're over 40, you probably remember Robert Reich. He was Bill Clinton's labor secretary. He was a liberal among moderates in that administration, but a thoughtful and engaging person. His views weren't mainstream, but he certainly wasn't stupid or a hater. Well, that was all before Trump. Like a lot of people in our ruling class, Robert Reich is now a completely different person. Just the other day, Reich wrote that the entire Trump presidency ought to be annulled, not just ended prematurely, that's no longer radical enough, but erased from history, forgotten by decree. America must reset to the first Monday in November 2016, like none of it ever happened. But would have to retroactively Photoshop an awful lot of pictures. But according to Reich, it's the only remedy. Reality isn't tolerable. It should be banned. Reich was dead serious, apparently. Keep in mind that 20 years ago, people considered him impressive. Some still do, which tells you a lot about the state of our intellectual leaders. People still defend John Brennan, too, even after he revealed on television that there's something seriously wrong with him. Officials who run the CIA ought to be sober and reasonable and even-tempered. It's too powerful a job with too little oversight and too little accountability for a wacko. That would be dangerous for the country. And yet over the weekend, there was Brennan once again charging a political opponent with a death penalty offense on the basis of zero evidence. Watch.
I've been having a hell of a time here on this show trying to get my guests to say the word. I think the president is guilty of that, and you use terms like that. You said after Helsinki, it was nothing short of treasonous, which sounds to me like treasonous.
Treasonous is a betrayal of trust, as well as aiding and abetting the enemy. And so that was the word that came to my mind.
Things are accelerating fast. Trump as a racist became Trump as a traitor, which has now become Trump as a non-person who must be erased from our collective memory. The left is officially out of epithets. All that's left is physical harm. Who will be the first to call for that? It feels inevitable at this point. Mark Stein is an author and columnist, and he joins us tonight. So what do you make of annulling the Trump presidency, Mark?
Well, I think this is rather like the famous episode of Dallas, where after they wrote off an entire season as not having gone anywhere, and Pam Ewing stepped into the shower, and there was Bobby Ewing, who was supposed to be dead, restored to life. And Robert Reich seems to basically be proposing the same solution here, that Robert Reich will step into the shower, and there will be President Hillary Clinton magnificently. I hope that's not a bit too vivid for you. Actually, as I was halfway through that image, it suddenly got a bit
it's
too
pretty
vivid for me. But that does actually reflect the level of denial here. If you recall, going back to November 2016, we heard all this stuff about, America is unique in having the peaceful transfer of power, which I don't quite accept. I mean, generally speaking, when they get a new prime minister in Denmark, they don't throw the old one off the parliament building or anything. There are other countries that have peaceful transfers of power. What's interesting here is that actually they can't accept that, and the denialism, which back a year and a half ago was just like with fake Newsweek covers showing the rightful president, is now extending to former cabinet secretaries actually arguing for the erasure of the historical record and sort of resetting things to year zero. And actually that is harmful to the so-called peaceful transfer of power. And in that sense, Reich should be ashamed of himself.
So, but that's kind of the key. Here you have not just some pundit on MSCNN or whatever, but here you have a former cabinet secretary and a well-regarded one. I mean, I know him, and he is a legitimately smart guy. And then a former CIA director who's not a legitimately smart guy, but still a former CIA director. I mean, these are the pillars of the establishment. What is it, macro question, about Trump that drives the ruling class to say things like this, irrational things, crazy things?
Well, I think there is a general presumption that it's not just that he won, but that he shouldn't have won. And therefore, because he shouldn't have won, he cannot really have won. And that's why you have to have this dance of speculation. Now, the treason accusation, I think, is actually, for a start, treason is giving aid and comfort to the enemy. And actually, Russia isn't the enemy at the moment. In fact, it was President Obama who mocked the very idea that Russia was even a sort of geopolitical rival of any kind. So we're not at war with Russia. The idea that that is actually possible of rising to the level of treason is faintly absurd. But I think it's the need to delegitimize. And a couple of cycles ago, that just meant mocking the other guy as being stupid and being unworthy of it and all the rest of it. But it's actually gone on to something far more dangerous, which is actually delegitimizing the entire system. when you have just major political figures saying that in effect the peaceful transfer of power is not possible, it can't possibly happen, therefore if it does happen, it's illegitimate. It's not so much this or that president that they're delegitimizing, but actually the very possibility of civilized self-government.
Well, exactly. So if the supposed adults on the left, Reich and Brennan and many others, are talking themselves into this frenzy where each round becomes more extreme than the last, how long before someone convinces himself that, we need to storm the White House, we need to take action, like physical action here? That's the terminus of this, right? How could it not be?
Well, that's what makes this at a certain level ridiculous. I mean, for Bill Maher, just before that bit with Brennan, said that this was the third biggest crisis in in America's history. The Revolutionary War, and then the Civil War, and now this. Well, what are you doing about it, Bill? You're having another decaf macchiato and finding another Canadian singer-songwriter to date. You're not pledging your life, your fortune, and your sacred honor, are you? By the way, speaking of treason, if he is dating another Canadian singer-songwriter, that's like George Washington dating a United Empire loyalist at the time of the Revolutionary War. So he's not even serious about what he's saying, and that's what makes it decadent. If either this is, as Bill Maher says, the third great crisis in American history, or it's just something you guys are talking about over your Sauvignon Blanc for a giggle. But if they're not serious about it, they shouldn't be saying it because somebody will take it seriously, and that's the real danger.
Meanwhile, the middle class dies, and nobody cares. Mark, thank you very much for that. Great to see you.
Thanks a lot, Tucker.
Andre Ward, physically, emotionally relentless, doing what he wants, when he wants.
For almost 30 years, I devoted myself to the pursuit of perfection.
Pound for pound, Andre Ward's the best fighter in the world.
I went from being a promising amateur to an Olympic gold medalist. Then I became a unified world champion in 2 weight classes and retired undefeated in 34 fights. Now it's my chance to pass along the lessons I've learned to the next generation. This is the story of 16 men. They all have championship potential, but the word potential can be meaningless until realized. 8 fighters will be coached by World Boxing Hall of Fame trainer Freddie Roach.
I had 15 years with this kid, Manny Pacquiao. I think I have 51 world champions, but I want more.
The other 8 will get wisdom from renowned Philadelphia trainer Nazim Richardson.
If you equate back to boxing years ago and you seen guys like Bernard Hopkins and Sugar Shane Sr., you couldn't see them doing anything but fight.
Every one of you are special. We're here to find out how special.
The thing now is to convince these kids to do what they should do opposed to what they think they have to do.
And with access to an elite training facility, their opportunity has come.
So is it legal, is it even possible to annul a presidency? Julian Epstein is a Democrat and former counsel to the House Judiciary Committee. He joins us now. So, Julian, I have noticed that the left has become more than anything a religious movement, and the use of the term annulment kind of proves it. If the presidency were annulled, as Reich suggests, would heretics who persist on acknowledging that Trump was once president, would they be punished?
It's a funny way to put the question. I don't think annulment is a serious argument. I don't think we're at the threshold of impeachment yet. I think there is a tendency going on with Democrats right now, as there was during the 98 Clinton impeachment, for people in the opposition party to scream loud,
yes,
and to try to get attention, and to scream kind of louder than the other because it helps with clicks on websites and it helps get them on television. but I don't think it's a serious argument.
But it's a different. So you and I had many debates during impeachment.
98,
so long we've known each
yeah.
other. And there were people who were claiming that Bill Clinton murdered someone at Mina Airport. And, there was a lot of that stuff. But it wasn't coming...
Vince Foster.
For sure. But it wasn't coming from former cabinet secretaries.
Dan Burton.
Okay, you had a member of Congress who had all kinds of theories, but he was embarrassed of those theories. And when confronted with them, he was like, oh, I didn't really think that. Here you have pillars of the Democratic establishment saying on television things that are so far out and extreme, I'm not even sure how to respond to them. Does that make you uncomfortable?
I don't know if he's a pillar of the Democratic establishment. I think he was a labor secretary under Clinton, and I think he's a very good economist. I think he's a sharp thinker as an economist. He is not a lawyer, and I don't think he's a legal scholar, and I think he'd probably do better staying away from that. I think there were plenty of Republican members of Congress that said very extremist things during Clinton impeachment. So I think it happens on both sides. It's a natural thing that occurs.
I don't think anybody accused Bill Clinton of treason. So here you
people accuse Bill Clinton of murder.
But not in public. I mean, they sort of whispered about it. But you didn't have, for example, a former head of the CIA. Does it bother you, actually, that John Brennan, who was complimented by Republicans, by the way, when he first got in, I concede that, but he was the head of the CIA, and now he's accusing a political opponent of a death penalty offense with no evidence. Does it bother you that he ran the most powerful intelligence agency in the world?
Well, I think what Brennan was referring to, and people use treason in different ways. People sometimes use treason in a legal sense, and sometimes people use treason in a more vernacular sense. And I think what Brennan was talking about was Trump continually cozying with Putin, who I think most Republicans would agree is an enemy of the United States.
Well, I wouldn't. I don't know if I would agree with that. I mean, he's certainly no more bloodthirsty than lots of Middle Eastern tyrants.
I think if you look at what he's done with the airliners, I think if you look at Crimea and Syria, I don't think he's a guy that's looking out for U.S. interests.
No, of course he's not looking out for U.S. interests. I think he would undermine U.S. interests. So would a lot of
that was the point. But look, I think you can go back and forth. We could go back as we did in 98, and you go back. You can find extremists on both sides who will say things that, again, I think are designed to get attention.
Well, I don't know.
Television, get clickbait for the things.
Sure, but then you also, and what you're saying is absolutely right, but you also have people like, I don't know, the ranking Democrat on the House Intel Committee, who on this show accused me of carrying water for Putin because I had sincere questions about the evidence of collusion. So you do have a kind of different level of extremism, I would argue, but it leads to this question, which is, if Trump is guilty of these crimes that virtually everyone on the left alleges, then why aren't we just saying out loud, there's an impeachment coming? Why are Democrats ashamed of that?
As to the question of extremism, there's a lot of extremism going on both sides. And I hope, as a thoughtful guy that you are, that you would denounce it, the extremism that's occurring on the right. I denounce the extremism that's occurring on the left. I think the Robert Reich article was ridiculous. That's the first point. The second point is not everybody on the left is saying Trump is guilty of crimes. I don't think there's proof yet that Trump is guilty of crimes. So I think the question on campaign finance, as we were discussing before we came on air, I don't think that reaches an impeachable offense, and I think it's questionable as whether it reaches a legal offense because of the ambiguity of campaign finance laws. We can talk about that more.
No, of course I agree.
I think the question on collusion rests entirely on whether Trump had advanced knowledge of any illegal activity that was connected to Russian hacking. That has not been proven yet. So this Democrat is not alleging a crime as it involves Donald Trump.
But you know as well as I that the pressure, and the polls bear this out, the pressure from Democratic voters to impeach if Democrats retake the House will be so overwhelming that what speaker could look at the people who just put him or her in that position and say, we're not impeaching?
Well, what I was going to say, one of the reasons that I think there's so much pressure around these investigations is how badly the Trump White House has handled the Russian investigation matter. It looks at every turn that they are trying to cover up crimes, whether it is the firing, the threatened firings, the promises of pardons, all of the flipping of the witness. The accountant has flipped on the president. His attorney has flipped on the president. Campaign manager. The poor way in Giuliani
is looking guilty the same as being guilty?
No, it's not. No, Tucker. Not in a legal way, but in a political way. You know as well as I do that the actions of this White House have looked guilty from the beginning, have made them look guilty. It doesn't mean that they're guilty in a legal sense, but it has been handled horribly. Okay. Now, it's the Democrats, where the Democrats ought to be, and what I would argue, and I've spoken to Democrats on the Hill, is that they should not be coming to legal conclusions or conclusions about impeachment at this point.
But can they resist
what they should be?
Can their voters want it?
Smart. Well, this is the problem with the polarized extreme basis. And Republicans do this, I think I would Democrats do, but we can disagree about that. I don't see that at all. We can disagree about that. But if Democrats were smart, they would tell the base that we're not going to kind of kowtow to the impulses that may make you feel better emotionally. We're going to do what you and I would probably agree on here. Listen
if you
to the
can
point.
find one Democratic leader, look, I agree with you. Of course,
Democratic leadership.
If you find one Democratic leader with the huevos to say something like that on television, I'll give you $20.
Well, I think that's basically what the Democrats are saying in other words. And what the Democrats ought to be saying, Tucker, is
we're almost at time.
We're not going to make conclusions about impeachment. We're not going to make conclusions about prosecution. We want facts to come out.